Picture the year is 117 AD. The Roman Empire stretches from the misty shores of Britain to the sun-scorched sands of Mesopotamia, from the Rhine River in Germany to the deserts of North Africa. This isn't just an empire, it's a world. Its heart, Rome, is a gleaming metropolis of 1 million souls, adorned with marble temples, towering aqueduct, and the colossal Flavian amphitheater, what we now call the Colosseum. Here, gladiators battle for glory, and the roar of the crowd is the pulse of a civilization at its absolute zenith. Across this vast dominion, a network of stone-paved roads, over 50,000 miles long, connects more than just cities. It connects cultures, economies, and ideas. The Roman legions, the most disciplined and formidable fighting force the world has ever seen, stand guard at the frontiers. Their iconic rectangular shields, the scutum, and their short swords, the gladius, are symbols of an unchallengeable power. Under the watchful eye of the Eagle Standard, they enforce the Pax Romana, the Roman peace, a period of unprecedented stability that lasts for centuries. Trade flourishes. Grain from Egypt, silk from the Far East, and wine from Gaul flow into Rome, feeding and clothing its citizens. The laws of Rome, a sophisticated legal system, provide a framework for justice and order across diverse populations. Latin becomes the universal language of government and scholarship, while Roman engineering accomplishes feats that will not be matched for 1,000 years. To be a Roman citizen is to be a master of the known world. Attissimo men under the Emperor Trajan, the idea that this eternal city, this indestructible empire, could ever fall would seem not just improbable, but utterly insane. It was the center of the universe, and it felt like it would be forever. But even the mightiest empires carry the seeds of their own destruction. As we move into the 3rd century, the cracks begin to show. The sheer size of the empire, once its greatest strength, becomes its greatest weakness. Communication is slow, and governing such a vast and diverse territory is a monumental challenge. The period known as the Crisis of the 3rd century dawns, a 50-year span of chaos where the empire nearly collapses. The system of succession, once a source of stability, descends into a deadly Game of Thrones. Emperors are no longer chosen for their wisdom or ability, but for their military might and the loyalty of their legions. The Praetorian Guard, the emperor's own bodyguards, become kingmakers and assassins. In this chaotic half-century, more than 20 men claim the title of emperor, and almost all of them meet a violent end. The empire is a revolving door of rulers, each one murdering his predecessor only to be murdered by his successor. This constant political instability paralyzes the government. Long-term planning becomes impossible when the man in charge might not survive the year. The Senate, once a powerful, deliberative body, is reduced to a rubber stamp for whichever general currently holds power in Rome. Trust in the central government evaporates. As the political foundation crumbles, so does the economy. The constant civil wars are incredibly expensive to pay the soldiers who keep them in power. Emperors resort to a disastrous policy, debasing the currency. They start mixing less valuable metals like copper and tin into the silver coins. At first, it's a small change, but soon, a coin that was once nearly pure silver is little more than a silver-washed piece of bronze. People realize their money is becoming worthless. The result is hyperinflation. Prices for everyday goods, like bread and oil, skyrocket. A soldier's salary, which once could support a family, can barely buy a few loaves of bread. Savings are wiped out overnight. Trade grinds to a halt as merchants refuse to accept the debased coins. The intricate economic network that bound the empire together begins to fray. People abandon the cities, which are plagued by poverty and unrest, and retreat to the countryside. They seek refuge on the vast estates of wealthy landowners, working the land in exchange for protection. This is the beginning of a shift away from a connected, urban economy toward a fragmented, agricultural society. The seeds of medieval feudalism are being sown right here, in the economic ruin of the 3rd and 4th centuries. Social unrest becomes the new normal. Riots over food shortages and crippling taxes erupt in cities across the empire. The sense of shared identity, of being Roman, begins to fade, replaced by a desperate struggle for individual survival. While Rome rots from within, a storm is gathering on its borders. For centuries, the legions had successfully held the line against the so-called barbarian tribes, living beyond the Rhine and Danube rivers. But the empire's internal chaos has weakened its military. Legions are pulled away from the frontiers to fight in civil wars, leaving vast stretches of the border dangerously exposed. At the same time, a great migration of peoples is beginning in the east. The Huns, a nomadic warrior people from Central Asia, sweep westward, displacing other tribes and pushing them up against the Roman frontiers. These tribes, like the Goths, the Vandals, And the Franks are not just disorganized raiders anymore. They've spent generations living next to the empire, learning from it. They have adopted Roman military tactics, and many have even served in the Roman army as mercenaries. They are now formidable, organized forces, and they see the weakening empire as an opportunity. They don't necessarily want to destroy Rome. Many simply want a piece of its wealth and a safe place to settle. The empire, desperate for manpower, begins to allow large groups of these tribes to settle within its borders, hoping to use them as buffer states and recruits for the army. This policy backfires spectacularly. The Romans treat the Goths who cross the Danube with contempt and cruelty, starving them and exploiting them. In 378 AD, the desperate and enraged Goths rise up. At the Battle of Adrianople, they deliver a devastating blow to the Roman army, killing the Emperor Valens himself. It's a psychological shockwave. For the first time, a barbarian army has defeated a Roman field army on Roman soil and killed the emperor. The myth of Roman invincibility is shattered. The borders are no longer secure. They are porous, and the tribes now flow across them. The final act begins. In the early 5th century, the pressure becomes unbearable. In the winter of 406 AD, the Rhine River freezes solid, a rare event. A massive coalition of Vandals, Suabe, and Alans swarm across the frozen river into Gaul, a province that had been securely roamed for centuries. They rampaged through the countryside, looting and burning. The Western Empire, now governed from Ravenna instead of Rome, is powerless to stop them. But the most symbolic blow is yet to come. In 410 AD, the Visigoths, led by their king Alaric, marched down the Italian peninsula. After a series of negotiations break down, they lay siege to Rome itself. For 800 years, since its sacking by the Gauls in 390 BC, the city of Rome had been untouched by foreign enemies. It was the Eternal City, the sacred heart of the empire. But on August 24th for 10, the gates are opened, and Alaric's warriors pour into the streets. For 3 days, they sacked the city. While the physical destruction is perhaps less than legend suggests, Alaric, being a Christian, ordered his men to spare the churches. The psychological impact is immeasurable. The news sends shockwaves across the world. How could the city that ruled the world fall to barbarians? 2 people living at the time. It must have felt like the end of the world itself. The city in flames becomes the defining image of the empire's fall. The sack of Rome in 410 was not the end, but it was the beginning of the end. The final decades of the Western Roman Empire are a sad tale of decline. Real power is no longer held by the emperors, but by powerful Germanic generals who command what's left of the army. They are the puppet masters, installing and deposing a series of weak, short-lived shadow emperors. The empire itself is shrinking rapidly. Britain is abandoned. Gaul, Spain, and North Africa are lost to the Vandals, Visigoths, and Franks, who carve out their own independent kingdoms on former Roman territory. The Vandals even build a fleet and capture Rome's vital grain supply from North Africa, effectively starving the city. The final, almost comical scene plays out in the year 476 AD. The man on the throne in Ravenna is a young boy named Romulus. His name is a tragic irony, combining the name of Rome's legendary founder, Romulus, with a diminutive of Augustus, its first and greatest emperor. He's a powerless figure. The German chieftain Odoacer, commander of the army in Italy, decides to end the charade. He deposes the young Romulus, but instead of installing another puppet, he simply sends the imperial insignia, the diadem, and purple robe to the Eastern Roman Emperor in Constantinople with a message saying that the West no longer needs an emperor of its own. There is no great battle, no dramatic final stand. The Western Roman Empire simply fizzles out. 476 AD is the date traditionally given for the fall, the moment when the last emperor was pensioned off and sent to live in a countryside villa. The West fractures into a mosaic of barbarian kingdoms. The great Roman roads fall into disrepair. The aqueducts crumble, cities shrink, and long-distance trade collapses. Europe enters the period we now call the Dark Ages. Yet, the legacy of Rome never truly died. The Roman Catholic Church, centered in Rome, preserves the Latin language, learning, and Roman administrative structures. Roman law becomes the foundation for many modern legal systems across Europe. The Romance language is Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian, all evolved directly from the vulgar Latin spoken by the common people of the empire. Roman concepts of republicanism, citizenship, and law would inspire the founders of new nations centuries later, including the United States. The Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire would survive for another 1,000 years, a beacon of civilization preserving Greek and Roman knowledge. So while the eagle may have fallen in the West, its shadow continues to shape our world. To this very day,